Oh, what I go through just to make YouTube look good. Um, Hi, everybody. This is Bob Ost. Welcome to our Friday community gathering, May 14th. I think it's 14th, and we've been doing this since April 17th, 2020. Um, we discovered we actually discovered by going through our spreadsheets who has actually been here the most. We find that the people have actually been here almost every week. We have people that have almost perfect attendance. I don't even have perfect attendance. I missed two of these. Um, so if you're out there and watching us on YouTube and you haven't been with us, Fridays at 4:30. We'd love to have you as part of the community. We open up. We have people talk about themselves and what they're up to during what they've been up to during COVID. Although we're entering a new chapter right now. So we find from the CDC that we're able to unmask. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I was growing, quite used to the anonymity of it. But we're going to have to be ourselves, and we have to be able to be with other people. Have to learn all sorts of new social skills that now that we're all used to being in shutdown, we have to relearn our social skills. So the point of doing this whole thing, I'm actually unexpectedly happy just thinking about all this. I didn't realize that it had affected me this way. We have been in shutdown for a year, and we have been all trying to figure out what to do, how to be creative, how to make any use of this time that we feel was like, we've all been sent to our rooms to think about what we've done. So we've been thinking now for like well over a year, and it looks like maybe we're coming back. But we've been talking about working virtually and working in isolation, and how and what we can do to be creative.
Sorry.
So we're basically been talking about using new resources, using what we have in ways that could be productive and satisfying in some ways creatively. And we've talked about podcasts, we've talked about radio drama, we've talked about all sorts of different things that people are doing during COVID, and may continue to be doing, because I think we've discovered that Zoom is a very good medium for us for development. And one of my friends, Cate Cammarata, who's also the literary manager of TRU, she started something called CreateTheater. She's been trying to get me on Zoom for 4 years, maybe longer. Longer. And I've been resistant to it. And so the pandemic came along and forced me to put things into this virtual platform. And to honestly, I didn't think it was going to be possible to do some of the things we're doing. And I've suddenly found out that not only is it possible, but in some ways they work better virtually. We have the advantage of being able to reach out to people that are well beyond the New York area. And it's great to actually have people in a room that are outside of New York. I've always known that I needed to be less New York centric. Now I can see the advantages of it and fully embrace them. So Cate has still not let go of the fact that she's been trying to get me to do this for more than 4 years, whatever that is, more than 4 years. And
I first broached the subject in 2015, and I pitched to the board in January 2016.
And at the time, to be honest, everything was a little bit more expensive. There were setup costs, and there were all sorts of charges that would be necessary for us to move into the virtual world. The virtual world became much more accessible in the past 6 years, and now it's very easy to be part of it, and it's working for us, and we're very happy to be part of it and doing things virtually. So, Cate, I want to bring you on now, and I want to bring you and your guests on. I also want to introduce my co-host Murray Davis now that she's back.
I just lost, as soon as we talked about his dinner, my computer crashed. And I now have you on an iPad. This is so crazy. This is so crazy. Anyway,
So you were trying to tell me something. Was it Murray who was eating dinner? What were we saying?
Barry was having dinner. He didn't realize his video was on. So he was down at the screen having a sandwich or whatever it was. And that's what everybody was watching at the time.
Oh, how odd, because I thought everybody had their video off.
They did. He came on late. He was making the sandwich. It took a while.
Okay. So so maybe Zoom and virtual presentation has a few drawbacks,
You think?
but by and large,
My computer just is coming on again, just saying hello.
by and large, I think that we've learned to embrace this. I also, I want to give TRU a little bit of a pat on the back. I think that what we did with our benefit on February 23rd, the TRU Speak benefit, shows that even though I was reluctant, Cate, would reluctant be a kind word?
Yes.
Okay. When I finally was able to embrace it and understand it, I'm one of those people who now wants to use it as best as we possibly can. So we're going to do an event next weekend. We're going to do an audition event with 200 actors and 70 theater companies on Zoom. And I'm hoping it's going to just go flawlessly. We don't know. We hope it will be. It's the first time. But Cate, let's talk about your embrace of virtual. Let's go back before the pandemic, when you started bugging me to do this.
Okay, let's revisit that. Sure, let's do it. So, am I still echoing?
That's Mary, I think.
It's
You
Mary.
are in two
Okay.
places.
I shut it down.
Okay. So we started talking in 2015. Well, and I thought, this would be great. And so then your board thought it would be great, but you weren't comfortable with it. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. But what it was meant to be was for the TRU community to expand outside New York City
Which COVID
And-
has forced us to do, and
and open.
it's been a blessing.
It's an amazing blessing, but the technology was available back then, and so certain members of the board who are also friends said, yeah, well, if TRU isn't going to do it, why don't you look into doing it? So I started working with writers, because as a dramaturg, I work with writers all over the globe, and so that enabled me to expand my borders and get involved with other countries and other writers and other projects. And in the meantime, Pat Blake started Rhymes Over Beats, and I was his associate artistic director, and then we produced Off Broadway, and then I produced some other things, and then I started holding events and seminars and webinars, because I had worked with an online entrepreneur starting in 2014. And I started doing it for CreateTheater. So we were online a good year and a half before the pandemic. So I was already there when the pandemic happened. The week of the pandemic, I had an investors event, and then I had a reading of a prominent rapper's work. And then the shutdown happened that week.
So what did you learn from the shutdown, and how did it change, if anything? How did it change what you do with CreateTheater? And we're going to actually let's also start off by letting everybody know that we're talking about two different programs that you do. One is CreateTheater, and the other one is ETC, Experts Theater Company. So did both of those exist? They did exist before the pandemic, no?
Just CreateTheater existed.
CreateTheater, okay.
So I was working with a number of writers, and we're working on actually presenting an in-person reading. And when the shutdown happened, I felt myself go down a rabbit hole, or start to, and the writers started to panic, and we didn't know where it was going. And I said, it's fine. We can do this on Zoom. We can do this on Zoom. We're going to do a reading series every Monday, and you can do this. This is fine. This is going to be great. You can all meet each other, because I work with writers very closely, and then I like my children to play together. So they got to meet each other. Actually, Melissa Bell was the very first one that said, yeah, I want to. So it was like the first week after the shutdown. We did it was Lady Capulet, right?
No, it was Zoe Comes Home.
Zoe Comes Home.
Yeah, right. It had been scheduled for a reading, and then, boom. So when Cate had this little meeting, and I just said, yeah, I have something. We jumped in.
And I'll always admire her. She's like, yes, I'm in. She had no idea what she was signing up for, but she said yes.
So Cate, tell us a little bit about what your mission is with CreateTheater, and why you started that, and what you were hoping to achieve with this business model that you were embracing.
It wasn't a business model at first. It was a way for all of us to keep our heads above water, to stay focused and not go down a spiral, because remember what was happening, what was happening in New York. And the only way creative people are able to focus and continue on is through the expression of their art.
I think that you still haven't. You are assuming that everybody knows who you are and what you do. Can you go just dig a little bit deeper and just say, what is CreateTheater? We have people in the chatter saying, I don't understand, what is CreateTheater?
Okay, sorry about that. So CreateTheater is a community, much like TRU is a community, because we started off presenting readings every Monday night, right? Free, because readings are, normally free. Then I started the virtual happy hour the last Saturday of every month, so everybody could get to know each other in breakout rooms and have conversation and meet other people from all over the country. So it was a community, the CreateTheater community. Then by June, we found out that this is not going away, this being the pandemic. So I wanted to create a theater company, which is something that I had always wanted to do since I was an undergrad, which joined together writers to meet each other, help each other go forward and develop work. So as a dramaturg, I work with writers on the script. I have a BFA in dramaturgy. I'm sorry, an MFA in dramaturgy. I teach dramaturgy. And then I also direct.
Ellen, you need to. Oh my goodness. Hold on. Okay, come back, Cate.
Okay, I direct new work, and then I also produce. So that became the ETC. And ETC is a hat tip for experimental theater company, La Mama, because Ellen Stewart was my idol of who I wanted to be, a theater maker like Ellen Stewart, ever since the 80s when I first heard of her. So that's my homage to Ellen Stewart and her generosity and just providing an artistic space for writers to come together, to meet each other, and to collaborate. And that's basically what it is.
So let me ask you this. Is CreateTheater exclusively for writers? Can people who aren't writers benefit from it?
Absolutely, yes.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
Theater happens when theater makers of all stripes get together, meet each other, and make things happen. Mary met Barbara
Kelly
at one of my my virtual happy hours, and they started working together. That's happened other times as well. People.
But your programming is primarily for writers. Is there something is there a producer program, or is there a director aspect of it? What else? How else is it structured? Is there something else?
My theater company, because I work with writers, focuses in on writers to first develop the work. So we have writing groups. I have the craft of playwriting. Then I have producing groups where right now we're developing pitches. And I also have producing seminars just for the company, so that if writers want to self-produce or learn how to try to make their work go forward and interest theater, regional theaters, or producers, that's what it's for. So the theater company is primarily for writers or producers who are interested in learning how to develop and jump in on an early work and mentor it forward. So that's primarily. So CreateTheater, the community, is for theater makers of all stripes to just come together and meet, and then to show their work on a Monday night when it's ready.
I think Cate and I spoke yesterday briefly, and I think the clarity that I got even from it was the fact that CreateTheater is where David and Joel went and had a, let's say, almost finished product to show, and they did it on a Monday night. And ETC, that company is to develop it, to get it to the point where it will show on a Monday night. In essence, I mean, in terms of how they differ. One is developed, and one is in the process of being developed and getting to that point. And that's when you end up working with producers and other people, because the writers have already started working on it, and it missions it along.
Yes. So if you want to think about the Monday night is something that's ready to reveal to a wide audience.
Right.
The baby is ready to be exposed.
But the
When
question,
the baby's ready to be exposed, you work on it in development in private, in ETC.
the question here, if somebody said, I have a script that is written but not developed, what would the next steps be, and in what company?
Okay, good question. So, okay, I open my doors for ETC twice a year only. I don't have always the door open for people to walk through, because I teach on I think in a semester basis. The whole value is for people to walk in the door, get comfortable with each other, trust each other, and then go forward with the work. My focus is on the work, not with having people constantly come in. So I'll open my doors at the end of June again. So at the end of June, then there is a cost associated with it. Somebody asked, is there a cost? There's a monthly cost. It's $47 a month. And yes, Melissa?
For ETC, Cate, right?
For ETC, CreateTheater, there's no cost.
Yeah, I wish I wanted to just talk to Mary a little bit about the earlier development of what you do, which is, people meet in groups and like if you said, Mary, I have a script and I've never done anything with it. So what Cate allows us to do is to meet as a group and in smaller groups. She's sort of matches people together within this ETC format, which all meets on Zoom. And we're able to listen to the script, go through scenes together, and things like that help a writer to figure out whether their script is really reaching the audience or really reaching the listener. And then they are able to make changes and revisions to those scripts until it becomes really ready to be a little bit more further along.
Sure.
And so that's really what Cate has done for us.
Right, which is, I think it's terrific. It would segue into, I have another question, because you have so much experience from doing the very things that you do. What is one thing you realized that writers were doing that they weren't doing, I should say, that they weren't doing, that would make their work better, that you have added to your repertoire of things to do for success?
I think that there is a process. There's a process that for musicals, for instance, you see patterns. So within musical theater structure, it's incredibly the variety of theater, but there's a structure. Right now I'm talking about the templates I've seen. The first 15 minutes are the first 3 plot points, the last 15 minutes. And it holds true again and again and again and again. And when you read musicals and plays constantly, you've got to see patterns emerge. And then that helps you then with your writing, and it hopefully provides inspiration and definitely structure.
And it's also how we structure the How to Write a Musical That Works workshop that we get through TRU.
Yes.
Cate and I give that workshop together, and it's based on the 3-part structure.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And the here's I'm going to make it a little tougher though, Cate, because people can learn some of those things other places. What are the things that you specifically focus on that you think aren't focused on enough by other workshops?
Well, I think
And
community.
also I want Melissa, David, and Joel to also answer that from your point of view.
Maybe their answer would be better.
Okay, let's try that. Raise your hand if you want to take it. David?
You're muted.
I'll jump in. I'm in a writing group now with Melissa. We call it Group Bell in her honor.
Oh, by
And
the way,
there are
David, I
four
want
of
to
us
compliment you on your camera. You have a very good camera.
We have a great time getting together every Tuesday, and we all commit to present 10 pages. And it could be newly written, or it could be, in my case, I'm reviewing and editing Madame Curie. And it's a wonderful group. Now, Kate's been in the group for a while. We're going to not have her forever, though, but she's been a participant. And it's just a wonderful, trusting group. And both Bob, you and Cate use the same word, community, which I really think is something that I feel being here and in all these sessions. Before the pandemic started, I really knew very few people in the theater world. I came to this late in life. And it's really because of the pandemic that it's opened doors to make all these friends. I probably have 100 friends now in my directory that I can talk to, and I can ask them for help. They can come to me for help. And that's really what a community is to do. And I think that's what's been so effective about the groups that I've been in now. I've been in 2 writing groups with Cate, is that sense of community and trust, and we're all helping each other.
Great, that makes a lot of sense to me. Of
I-
course,
I'd
it does.
like-
It's my whole life philosophy.
Yeah, Bob.
Joel?
Yeah, I'd like to echo a little bit what Dave was talking about, because when I first wrote the only show I've ever written, which was a musical that I wrote, in a Teacup, I didn't know anybody, and I didn't feel, as we all know, writing can be such a lonely interior world. You don't know if anything you're doing is ever going to touch anybody else except what's between your ears. And it was Cheryl Weisenfeld, actually. I pitched to her many years ago, and she told me, you should go to TRU. That would help you. And that's where I got the first reading of Ocean in a Teacup, was through TRU. And that's also how I met Cate. And that's a great story. Someday maybe we'll get a chance to tell of how I met Cate. But
I'm intrigued.
Cate, well, it's a great story, but it's really a long story, so you wouldn't want it here. But Cate, for me, Cate took it a step further than just meeting people at TRU programs or some panels. You know, she got more personally involved with me and with my show, and she also created an environment for me to meet other people and for it not be such a lonely world anymore. And I think that's the great thing that CreateTheater offers, is that now I know David pretty well now, and he's given me some advice. I've given him advice over the last year or so. His piece, Madame Curie, really inspired me to do what I did in terms of recording Ocean in a Teacup. And that's a whole nother story that I hope we'll get to talk about later, of how all those things happened. But I think that's really CreateTheater has taken me out of a bit of the loneliness of being a writer.
Melissa.
And besides, it's not so much the loneliness, and to be a little more direct to Mary's question, is that what writers need is input. They can't, when you're working alone, you're working in a vacuum, and you don't know how your play is going to sound to anybody. You don't know how the reaction is going to be from an audience. What this does is we are somewhat trained, somewhat knowing because of some of the Cate's seminars, and we're able to offer input to the other writers and as audience members, because a lot of us go to a lot of theater, we see things, we really analyze it, we've been had various levels of education, and so we're able to instead of a writer having their first public reading where people go like, oh, well, it really needed this and that, right? We're doing that ahead of time with people. So they're able to really get some input ahead of time and keep developing. And writers have to work hard, you know, that's the whole thing. Writing is rewriting, and you have to work hard at your rewrites. So that's part of the benefit here, as we're really helping each other to get an audience experience before it goes out to a more judgmental audience, maybe, you know, so.
Yeah, well, okay, but the fact that it's all positive and it's great. And the question then to the writers, if there was a suggestion box at ETC, what would you be putting in the suggestion box that would help make the course better for you?
I'll answer that because I threw a suggestion in the box that I said, this was earlier this year, and I said, Cate, you're offering nothing for composers. Everything is for the writer. And we're writers, but Joel and I are also composers. So we set up, Cate said, I agree, set something up. So under ETC now we have our composers workshop. We meet every month on the third Wednesday. And it's coming up this Wednesday if you're interested.
It's really good too.
Is it going to teach you how to write music?
So we analyze, and most of the speakers have been group members. Now we're getting a few outside guests that are really exciting too.
So who facilitates this?
About,
Who facilitates this? Is anybody, or is this just
I do.
You facilitate it?
I play Bob host.
So good luck. So if you're doing a composer's workshop, what are the things that you focus on, and how do you help each other?
Well, our model now is to have 3 people do a presentation, and we talk about topics that are relevant to composer geeks, like circle of fifths, modal music, composing overtures, prosody. I did one on writing music to someone else's lyrics. And the example I gave was the Star Spangled Banner, because it's a real challenge.
Now, when I first heard about David's doing this, I was very skeptical about it, because in my mind, no one can teach you how to write a song. No one can teach that. And then I watched, what the people that he put together and his approach, and it was really great because it really gets into the specifics. It's not just a general thing. It's let's talk about the real meat and potatoes of how you do it. Excuse me, I'm a vegetarian. I shouldn't be talking about meat and potatoes, but let's talk about the tofu and brown rice of how you get this done. And it's for all the composers in the group out here, it's very valuable, and you'll get to share notes with other composers, and that's really meaningful too.
Great.
I just want to remind the room. I think it's fair to say that the majority of the people attending today are writers. Please jump in, put questions into the chat. Jay, Jay, are you here? Because if you're here, could you actually just point out any questions that we're not answering? Because I'm not able to follow the chat at the same time as I'm running it.
Melissa, did you have your hand up? Go ahead.
I was just
Snapping.
snapping with everybody.
Oh,
Yes, these small groups really do make you better at what you're doing, and you have people to talk to about things that, as David said, music geeks and theater geeks get to talk about. And there's nobody else. I can talk to COVID with all my friends. Talk about it with all my friends, but there's not a lot of people I can really talk about theater and what it is, writing or songwriting. I've been writing some lyrics lately for a project, and I can't do that with everybody. I can only do it either here or with Cate's group, some other group. Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm finding some questions in the chat, but Cate, did you want to say something first?
If you think of it as like a college course, right? You're going to major in writing for plays and musical theater. So there's a whole bunch of different classes that are offered. and you can come free. You don't have to do everything. If you try to do everything, your life will completely be overrun with CreateTheater and etc. But you attend what you can, you look at the recordings, and you learn from each other, from me and from my guests. And it's just like college. And you meet people in your class, and you get to know people in your class, and then you have small writing groups, and it's all good.
Somebody's asking what the web, or asked a while ago, what the website is for ETC, and I think that if they go to CreateTheater, is there a tab that would bring them to tell them about ETC?
There's on the menu item, it's ETC, or Exit Theater Company.
Lee Roscoe wanted to know, how does the Playwright get involved, and is there a cost?
There is a cost, $47 a month, which opens the door to the company and the free writing group, the free producing group, which I moderate each of them.
So suddenly there's a
Hey,
free.
that's for ETC.
Wait a second.
Just be clear with that.
Right.
That the cost is for ETC, not for CreateTheater.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah.
But you just said producer group, and you actually never clarified that before, because I was asking you, can other people be involved other than writers? So there is a producers group.
The producers group is for the writers so that they can either self-produce or move forward to trying to get someone else interested. Strategies every month to move forward toward a production. There are producers. Mary is part of the group. Sue Cohen is part of the group. And that is for people to come every Thursday night. I have reading of developmental work. I would love producer members to get involved and to team up and just help mentor. We've got like 43 productions going forward. So, yay.
Oh, come on. You can do better than that. Only 43?
Oh my God.
Come on.
At various
Slack. You're a slacker.
But it's not just me. Everybody's helping each other. So when I want to start producing, we can do in tandem and a whole bunch of stuff, when things open up, because we're developing it now.
And pose the question for the group that Monday nights, if I'm clear, Monday nights is free. And obviously anybody who's going through the writing, the ETC would have first dibs on the positioning of Monday night, but you also allow other people who've not taken that course to show their show on Monday nights at no cost.
That's going to be in like my next step, but I have to give everything I can to members right now.
Absolutely.
Well, Noel McDuffie asks an interesting question. Would you be open to having directors join any of these groups, or would that be counterproductive in terms of what you're trying to do?
I don't think it'd be counterproductive. I just haven't got to that yet. I'm only a single person.
So Noel McDuffie would probably be willing to volunteer to run your director workshop, your director program.
Well, there might be something if a director, I don't know, but I would think some playwrights don't know how to work with directors. So, I think one time just learning how to communicate with a director might be something interesting, as, David sort of said, but, who knows?
Well, Melissa, TRU has that course.
Right, you do.
Great.
Yeah.
It was so terrific. It was so terrific because the dynamics between the director and the playwright are so critical. And you never thought of all. There's so many levels of it. It's not just the black and white. Does it work? And that was terrific. So that's being done. It's just
And actually, Noel has been in that workshop. He's been terrific in it. He's been one of the most open and generous people. He's been great with writers.
Yeah. The only difference here is that we're doing this all online. So as you all know, TRU is in New York, and those were all live. But this is, David, where are you? You're in California. This is something that's a little just different because we're online. So
we're ready to do the Director Writer Communications Lab online.
Do that.
I think we did actually one of them.
You did do it. That's the one I saw. Absolutely.
We did.
It's
It works
online.
great. Like everything else, it works great online.
Yeah.
I
it's
think
perfect.
I think that a bunch of directors, like I already have actors who are willing to come in and play, right? Directors who are willing to come in and play, because I used to teach this class when I taught dramaturgy at Stony Brook, which was the devising method. And I've always wanted to try to do this within like a class to present, or for a writer to present work and have actors just improvise different endings and to work. And for that, I would really like to develop that and offer it. I just haven't gotten there yet.
Lee Roscoe has an interesting question, commentary combined. She says, I have found that labs often have a single point of view on aesthetic, which is limiting. For instance, if you are a La Mama-like writer, avant-garde as I am, will that be poo-pooed by those who relish only kitchen sink theater or realistic theater or whatever you want to call it?
You can find your tribe. We're large enough, you can find your tribe. In fact, some of the newest members in our producing group today, I said, you definitely have a downtown edgy aesthetic and you should blah, 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 blah. And I talked to somebody last week, the same thing. Not every theater maker has a cookie cutter aesthetic, and you just need to find your tribe. And
also, if I may say so,
here for 2 years, so I'm like definitely downtown experimental as well.
I just want to say something about human beings in general. There are going to be some writers who are very attached to their aesthetic, and they're not going to be able to really relate to what you do. But there are going to be a lot of others who are going to be very interested in it and might even think, I might try something like that sometime. People are people, Not everybody is stuck in their ways, like me.
Right. Another question for the writers. Name 1 or 2 things that you weren't doing before you came to ECC that you have now incorporated into your work that you feel has made it better.
Well, I'm going to say that CreateTheater really saved my pandemic because I really would have probably sat it out, and because of the Monday night series and because of Cate's insistence that I do something more during this time, I jumped into the pool and I created a recorded virtual recording of a musical that was the biggest project I ever took in my life. It took me 5 months to complete. An enormous amount of editing, which I learned how to do myself. And I really had, it's because of the CreateTheater and the Monday night series that I did that, because I would not have done it on my own if I didn't have a target for it, if I didn't have an objective, as a specific objective to and a place to put it once it was done. I would never have done it. So and something I'll have for the rest of my life and beyond. The rest of my life. My great-grandchildren can say, what did great-grandpa do? It'll be there. It'll be on YouTube. So I'm very grateful. So that's something that CreateTheater did for me.
That's great.
So Kate, may Noel McDuffie contact you and talk about possibly initiating a director group with you?
Of course, we can explore it.
Okay.
David, did you have anything?
I'd like to answer Mary's question. When I first started writing, I had no idea what structure was. I was just writing it. And I hired Cate as the dramaturg. So we've worked together and with she was the director for me, mentor, lots of different roles. And she's really taught me a lot about structure. And in my group now, you asked, what's one thing I've learned? Another thing, the group with Melissa, I'm learning more about dialogue and use of subtext and making my dialogue less stiff and boring and more conversational. And I think that's really been helpful. Very good.
That's terrific.
I see a hand raised from Jeslie. Jeslie?
Yeah, I just wanted to direct you to the questions that you might have missed if you wanted to still go over them.
I would, actually.
Okay, so Stephanie Schwartz asked, how do actors get into the readings or productions?
You send me your resume, and then I forward it to Matt, who works for me a couple of hours a week, and then he puts it on the spreadsheet, who I share with anyone going into the developmental reading for actors.
Just resume, no headshot?
Headshot resume.
No headshot and resume.
Great.
Jeslie?
Okay, and Barry is saying, I've been putting words on paper for a long time. In the beginning, there was the oral tradition, which is more spontaneous and connected. Have you ever had any experience with writers using an oral talk style, which can be recorded and printed out?
No, not yet. Not yet. Sounds
I
good.
think TCAT is who's in the room. I think she's been working with oral tradition. So
Yeah.
you should talk. You should meet TCAT and talk to her about that.
Yes. It's a
And
great-
TCAT, if I'm wrong, tell me. But I think that would be really the style that you've been working in the
Sure.
past year or two.
Sure.
Okay, we got a sure. Okay, we got a definitive sure.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and I believe this is the last question I see. Janet Conrad asks, is it possible for there to be a one-session workshop, cost or no cost, for writers and self-producing artists to learn how to budget for various cost levels of Zoom productions?
That sounds like a true thing. Not that I wouldn't do it, but I think that that's a great idea for True. I'm still
Either.
literary manager for True, and my heart's still with True too. So
Either
yeah,
would be great. Yeah, of course.
Well, actually, next week's community gathering is going to be a conversation about what it costs to do things on Zoom and how the costs have changed in the past year and what the costs are going to be in order to reopen live. So it's not just going to be about Zoom, but it's going to be about what things cost in general.
Bob,
Thank
are we timely or what?
It's on
I read the paper. I read the
Yeah.
paper, and then I start emailing people about being on
Having me-
panels. I do this every day. I do this all the time.
Have a need, there it is.
I'm
Go
actually
ahead.
trying. There was a great article in the Times about Jodi Picoult, the author, has created a musical called Breathe, which is about the pandemic. And one of the supervising producers is a friend of mine, Jeff Calhoun, and Broadway Records is actually producing the record, the cast recording of it. And I'm reaching out to both of them. I said, I want you to come in and talk about this Zoom musical that you're doing. So yeah, I try to stay on top of things.
Ew.
People don't always answer my emails.
No, that was a compliment. That was, it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing. There's a need, gets filled, whatever it is.
Yeah. Oh, TCAT says Breathe was done at University of Georgia. I didn't realize that. I thought they were just creating it new now, but apparently not.
some other people that are in the room want to say something about CreateTheater. Is there a way that they can come in?
You, Larry.
Larry and
come-
I know
Larry, what
David
did you want to
Edwards.
say?
Elizabeth
see me?
Mason.
Hello, can you see me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Hi. No, I think it's great. Every writer is different. For me, because I'm writing book music and lyrics. When you're writing music and lyrics, for me, I get so involved in the minutia of finding the right words and finding the right notes. And is it a D7 flat 9 or a D7 sharp 9, or is there, an augmented tri? You're so much into this that it's very, very easy to lose your way as far as the journey you're taking. I'm talking about journey from 30,000 feet where you're going off in the wrong direction. And the great thing I love about this is the constant reinforcement about book structure, which I know I've heard it before. I've heard Cate say it before, but every time I hear it, it really helps put it like into my mind so that as I am writing, I am sure to go in the proper direction, because once you've written a song and you're way over in left field, you think, how the hell did I get over here? This is not where I should be. So I love ETC, and the community is wonderful, and everybody is very dedicated, very smart, and very experienced. And hats off to Cate for doing this.
So Kate, I'm recording this so you can use this for your marketing.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, everyone.
I just want to echo that the groups and the community and the quality of the people, it's fantastic.
I put a bunch of stuff into the chat, but it's, for example, the small writing groups are 4 people. Mine, which Melissa and David are part of, meets weekly. That solves one of the highest goals in getting something done, is giving you the discipline and the goal of writing every single week. The composer workshops that David runs are like these super brainy academic courses, really for composers to share like what they've learned about melody, and it's really dense stuff, sharps and flats and charts, and it's really intense.
The chords
And
have
then-
numbers.
Yeah, and then just the regular attendance at regular meetings, to answer Stephanie Grayson's one of her asks about cost is you can basically do a table read as part of CreateTheater and ETC for free. I mean, you have the door is open for you to get your stuff together and present in a table read, and then you get all these incredible people who have been working alongside you, giving you this unbelievably precise feedback, really intense stuff, like not patsy, oh, you're wonderful stuff, but some really exacting ways to make your show better.
Okay, and I want to add something too, since I coming up the end of this month will be 1 year since I joined, because I was a part of the first group, the new group that joined. It was a great community for me because it's like I was trying to find a tribe. I was trying to find somebody, and I felt like I was alone, especially living in Texas. And I was able to interact and collaborate with people from other parts of the country. You will never be able to do that if you're in the neighborhood that you live in. And I was also, speaking of, you talking about the composing workshop, which is really fantastic. I mean, my writing partner, Joshua Davis, did a piece about hip hop and R&B on Broadway. So that was really, really exciting for us because I didn't even think there was even a room for that, and there was a room for that, and they were open to that, and especially for me, I was very thankful for working with Cate and being able to understand the story arc of the journey. That's one of the things. I mean, I've been known for a lot of things, but a big thing I'm known for is that I'm exceptionally wordy. I have a lot of great ideas. The problem is I got too many ideas. If I had to focus on just that one idea that carries a story, and I learned that from ETC.
There are many. I mean, most of us know that there are many aesthetics and many different styles, and I guess if you want to call them tribes, you can also call them tribes. I still think that there's some basic things that underlie good writing, no matter what style you're working in. So I think that interacting with people outside of your tribe is also very healthy and very, very helpful, as long as people don't get all judgy. That's the only problem. It's like, if people get judgy, no, they don't do it the way I do it. It's like, no, this is the way you do it. No, just stay open. And this is also something that we go through every year. Cate will tell you this with our play reading series. We get submissions that are in all sorts of styles and all sorts of voices. And I've come to realize over the years that the readers will gravitate to the voices that sort of resemble their own. And it's really our duty, and something we've been trying to do over the years, is to find more varied readers so that people could relate to voices that other readers may not relate to. Nevertheless, I still think that there are some basic premises, there's some precepts of good storytelling and good writing that I think span all of these.
But it goes back to the mission of Ellen Stewart and La Mama. She opened the garage and let artists come in and create. And then they got to know each other, and it just mushroomed. That's exactly what I wanted to do, only I didn't have a garage. I have an online space.
Which is even better because of the international aspect.
Yes.
Speaking Australian.
Right. I had never done anything on Zoom except maybe have a meeting or two. And I felt a little skeptical when Cate had this meeting and was talking about this Zoom space that she had and what can we do with it. And, I kind of walked out, and I thought, not walked out because it was on Zoom, but I took a minute or two to think about it. And then I said, what am I thinking? Of course I should do this and jump in because it's crazy not to. And I did, and I was very happy that we did it. We just figured it out. And so that that was my experience. And then now, of course, I've done several more along with TRU.
So we have a couple hand raises, and I'm going to take them in the order in which Zoom is recognizing them. So I'm going to hold you for a second, David, but I'm going to go to Jeffrey Lyle Siegel. Your hand
Hey,
raise.
am I back on?
Everybody's in the room now. It's like
I'm okay. I'm back. There we go. Okay, good. So, Cate, I don't know if I missed it, but along with the composers subgroup you don't have a lyricist group, do you? Or do you?
Nope.
I got to talk to you about that because
So Cate, we're getting you into the weeds now.
Yeah.
You have to be all things to all people. Stop trying to be specific.
Yeah, right.
It has always pained me that when I see new musicals in development and I see them addressed in critical situations, never is lyric structure addressed.
I don't agree with you. I hear it addressed all the time. The thing that I never hear addressed is the relationship between song and scene. That's my big thing. I mean, and we all have our thing, but I think that one of the things that is missing from the development of musical writers is a real strong understanding of what is musicalized and what is spoken and how they interact. And that's my. I mean, we all have our big thing that we're interested in.
And Jeffrey, I mean, I can only speak for the group that I have with David and two other people in the ETC, is that we read the scene with the lyrics in it. We don't necessarily have to listen to the music. We look at it. We look at how the lyrics advance the story. We look at structure. Is this more of a pop song that has an A-B structure, or is it a musical theater type of thing that moves the story forward? You know, we really talk about it, but it's our group, you know. So I would say, you know, if you're a member of ETC, you know, get in a group. You can join our group.
Well, it's good that you're doing that. That's good.
And I just want to say that in our workshop, How to Write a Musical workshop, we always analyze the lyrics, and we always are telling people, have we moved someplace different at the end than we are at the beginning? Is there a journey within your lyric? We always look at the structure of the songs. That's hugely important. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you about the importance of it, Jeffrey. I'm just saying that I think that it is discussed.
I think that it's like the musical workshop every week or every month, depending on if you're in a writing group monthly or weekly, or so. And with a bunch of people you trust, because you've earned that trust with each other.
Cool.
Well, Jeffrey, maybe it has your name on it.
Maybe it does. You know, I have a particular passion for things, for, you know, the kind of discussion that I'm talking about that I never hear is like the difference in sophistication between rhymed couplets and inner rhymes. You know, how to make more natural sounding lyrics. The issue of prosody that David brought up was important.
In our workshop, I remember specific discussions about these characters. It feels like these characters would be much more structured. They would use better rhymes. We've talked about how rhyming or not rhyming or half rhyming or partial rhyming, whatever, often reflects the character itself. So you have to be aware of that. A very smart and very intellectual character would probably have a different rhyme structure and be a little bit more, a little stricter in the rhyming than a teenager.
As Sondheim has famously beat himself up over I Feel Pretty.
I Feel Pretty, yeah. And yet he beats himself up, yet we all know that song lyric is perfectly appropriate for the character. There are a couple of lyrics in there that I don't think Maria would have actually sung. But the basic ones that he doesn't like I Feel Pretty and Witty and
right. She could have said that. I think he's too hard on himself.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine.
You know what I'd like to do? Barbara Kelly, who was blocked out before, had her hand up, and now if you have a question, Barbara. Oh, you still? Oh,
no, hold on. I think that's your your internal sound. You have to turn it up within Zoom. You take a few minutes.
Okay, all right. We'll come back. We'll come back to you.
David? I mean, so like for like lyricists, I mean, it's just like what David has done with composers and basically set up a workshop like a week per month on Wednesdays. Like that's, you can always come in and make a space for yourself. You have that option to tell Kay and ask her if like, hey, can we set up this events every so and so, and they'll, yeah, like we'll help you model it.
And Kate has a few days a month that aren't spoken for, so Jeffrey, you're on.
I think we're down to nanoseconds at this point, aren't we, Kate?
Yeah, coming close. But you know,
I'd like to call on the very patient David Lamberton.
Okay. My journey, my arc through all of this has sort of been fast-tracked in many ways. I started, I guess, almost 2 years ago with TRU, with the actor audition, the live version. And as he says, and as everyone says, it was so accommodating and so comfortable making. It was a much more enjoyable situation than most auditions of that nature are, when you're getting up in front of like 40, 50 people at the same time. So that was great. But then through that, then I started to go to some of these Friday meetings before we all got locked in. And then I started coming to more of them. And by that, I got introduced to Kate. And apropos of someone else's question, I submitted first to her as an actor to be on her actor roster. And then later on, as the pandemic went along, I started working on a play that I had sitting around, and I got to her as a dramaturg. And so mine is different because it's not musical. Most of the others are music-based. Mine is straight, and it's not a comedy by any means. And she really helped me. I mean, I knew there was a problem with the ending, and I was having trouble fixing it. But she very succinctly kind of led me sort of by the nose, but gently, to where the right places were to turn it around, trim it down, get it in shape, get it organized, which I did eventually, and then worked on it. And then she came back to me and said, hey, do you want to do Thursday night reading? And I said, yeah, I'd love to. Fortunately, I already had people lined up. So we did that, and it went over well. It was received well. And the next thing she said is, how'd you like to be my guinea pig?
Oh, that old line.
Yeah. And, you know, and get out there and take something like what Dash is, which is a pretty serious drama, and it's got some heavy messages to it, and take it to the next step, take it out of Zoom, take it out of the Brady Bunch box, and see how live we can make it. So from there, I get introduced to Eben, and we made it happen. So as I say, my arc has sort of been fast track. It was like actor auditions through TRU, coming to Bob's meetings on Fridays, meeting up with Kate, applying as an actor, talking to her as a dramaturg, getting the play, and then her saying, hey, guinea pig, why don't you get out there and, you know, run on the treadmill for me. Let's see what happens. So we did, and it all happened, and it works. It's worked very well. I've met people.
I'm gonna pull the meeting back because it's getting late.
Sure. Yep.
I just was wondering whether the people that aren't my guest speakers today could go on off video right now, just so I can thank my guests and ask Kate for a little final word from her. You know what? I'm going to do speaker view, and that way, when we do this on YouTube, people will see you. Kate, so in conclusion, can you tell me why you decided to do all this, and what your goal is, and what your goals are going forward? Is this all fulfilling your hopes and dreams in terms of a company that you wanted to create?
You know, I listening to all of you right now, I think Ellen Stewart would be pretty proud of me. And it's just touching me because.
Bravo.
So every time somebody makes a noise, you grab the screen away from Kate.
So because I love artists, I love theater, and I am such a geek. If I could spend every waking moment just working on someone's script, that's a fulfilling life. So.
Well, I think that's a nice positive way to end this. I want to thank Cate. I want to thank Murray, for my co-host, and David, Melissa, and Joel. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here so many weeks, but today in particular. I want to remind everybody that next week we do have Martin Platts confirmed. I'm trying to get a couple of other producers to talk about what the costs are going to be for reopening, and also what the costs are currently for Zoom, doing things on Zoom.